general theme is how does it feel to be a hypocrite?
Right. Well, he sounds like a royal dirtbag.
I was wrong about something.
Magnificent! Magnificent! Magnificent!
If we can be with ourselves, if we can understand ourselves, we can love.
It's not my fault nobody can understand what you're saying.
Let's go while we're young.
3, 2, 1. Just introduce yourself and tell me what shape.
Hey, good morning, Matt here. I'm just checking this, making sure everything's working. Looks like we're good to go. Good morning. Happy Wednesday, middle of the week. Let's get this going. If you're new here, make sure that you hashtag during the live stream, Shiny Brand, hashtag Shiny Brand, and that'll get you in the drawing here to win a t-shirt this morning. So hopefully everything will get rolling well this morning. We're doing this whole series on whataboutisms, and I basically broke it down into 7 things. I took just a whole bunch of information from all over, different books, the internet, all sorts of things. So good morning to the whataboutism finale. We're going to talk about number 6 and number 7. Number 6, derail discussions is what they're used for often. In another kind of whataboutism norm, I guess, is cultural norms. It's just normally used in cultures, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But hey, so we've got when the section of derail discussions. So a whataboutism, if the intent is, and we've been talking a lot about intent, and if someone intends on how to use it in a positive way or how to use it in a negative way, and most use it in a negative way. What I found interesting is I've had a few messages on, I don't use whataboutisms. Everybody does. You might not recognize it, and that's why I've broken it down into this different things so that we all understand that we're guilty of it, but we also can understand that we can use it in a positive way instead of a negative way and tearing people and things down. But we can use them to build them up, to set a standard, as I talked about in the beginning. So the whataboutism, with the purpose of derailing or delaying or disrupting conversations, when they use it because they lack a strong counter argument to kind of what they're being presented with, or maybe they want to avoid the topic altogether. And that's why a whataboutism with the intent to derail discussions is used for. And so it kind of, it basically is kind of along the lines of, avoidance behavior, right? We all know people who do whatever they can to avoid whatever responsibility that they can. And so that's part of that when you use this to derail a conversation. So it's just people are trying to sidestep maybe discomfort by changing the subject. It shifts focus to avoid maybe addressing personal responsibility and things like that. And so it kind of can make basically it's used to make the conversation much less constructive. So let's get into number 7, because I want to run through some things here after it and kind of sum it all up. So the cultural norms. So in some cultures, you might even say in some cultural political systems even, whataboutism is used as a normal response to criticism. That's what it is used for. Like someone criticizes you, they'll just use it as a criticism to basically shift everything over to a different party in general, and definitely certainly away from themselves. And so especially it's used in cultures, if you research it, it's used in cultures that basically public accountability is kind of limited. And so a cultural norm would be in some different societies that that public accountability is just something that's very limited. And it when you see this in cultures, it's basically you can call it social learning, right? Like when kids are growing up in this, they're learning this in social settings, and it's kind of reinforced because they just have seen it repetitively over their lifespan. And so it avoids that personal responsibility again, and it shifts it over to another political party in general. And so when they grow up in these cultures, they grow up using these techniques. It's kind of a mimicked behavior as they get older, and then therefore the environment just continues to grow and expand on that. And in my opinion and in my research, when they use that as a cultural norm, and that's acceptable to use it in a negative way, they're taking and just more and more often in new generations, less and less personal responsibility for their actions. So it's kind of a deflection method of responsibility. You can really call it. And so whataboutisms, I want to say that they have a massive, as we wrap this up, they have a massive emotional impact. I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of people, their Facebook posts, their X posts, those two places in general. They're used most significantly because of the different type of platforms that they are and the interactions that they have. And so there's they're mainly used by people for that provoking emotional reactions: anger, defensiveness, dominance. They want to dominate the discussion and use it to just belittle and polarize people, and essentially trying to stomp on people to elevate themselves in their position. And it creates just a very heated and emotional, like I suppose you could say it emotionally charges the situation so that it forces one of you to walk away from the conversation. Now, I will also say that thumb wars are never a good thing to get into. Leaving opinions is great, but if you're doing it in a whataboutism negative context to create thumb wars back and forth, I don't want to have anything to do with it, and I don't think you should either. But whataboutisms, when we see them used, and I hope you can identify them a little bit more too after now going through this for several days, they do have a short-term effectiveness. They're very effective short-term in establishing, maybe even neutralizing someone's dominance in the situation. That it can put them in a place of just neutralizing the direction and the train that they're headed on, by criticizing them and using it in that way. It can also temporarily rally supporters. Even when it doesn't resolve the issue, these different 7 types of whataboutisms can really just rally people behind the position or the policy or the person. Downside: using whataboutisms. If we use them in a negative way, it will undermine your credibility, period. And again, I think whataboutisms need to be used in a positive way and in a way to establish a standard, so that that the standard is the same across the board for humans, that there's no different levels of privilege or whatever that there are, that we often see: money privilege, race privilege, whatever you want to imagine, political privilege or anything. We need to use them to establish that standard. That's my bias and opinion. But they do undermine credibility when we use them in a negative way, because, an overuse makes it seem like you're being evasive or dishonest, and that then erodes your credibility. When we use them in negative ways too, it's going to push down progress. It's going to stifle progress. It's not going to open people's mind to dialogue and discussion. It avoids I suppose, down in the root issues, that it doesn't address those roots. It doesn't address how to solve that problem and get those roots out and exposed and figure it out, because it deflects everything, as we've talked about. And it also, when we use it in a negative way, it will polarize people, audiences, whatever you want to say. If it's in a speech, it then reinforces the tribalism, or I guess we talked about that yesterday, the tribalism, or kind of that group loyalty thing, rather than trying to foster mutual understanding. It will reinforce that tribalism or group loyalty. There's also a bit of a actually, let me skip to the positive part. I see we're at 11 minutes already again this morning. What aboutisms can be used to reshift the focus into a positive way? I'll just leave it there. We can reframe things positively by using a whataboutism to get that conversation going in a good direction. Again, establish basically that standard. But all in all, almost anywhere that you look, people use whataboutisms to deflect criticism. They also use it to expose hypocrisy. They try to use them to gain leverage in a conversation. And it's basically driven by a psychological need of two things: defensiveness and fairness. That's the sum of what we use those for. We use them, mainly people use them, and I'm guilty of it too, in the form of defensiveness, but we also use them in the form of fairness. So try to use them in a positive, fairness, standard established way, rather than use them in a defensive, negative, deflective way. So let's give this t-shirt away here. So that y'all can get on your day. Appreciate you being here. Oh, we got to do that again. I have to leave the comments for directions for everybody, and I can't win. Congratulations, Amy. So the wheel has spoken. We'll see y'all Monday morning at 6:30. I hope you have a great rest of your week and a fantastic weekend.
You know what I just saw?
Who is this guy?
I call myself Podcast because of my podcast.
I have exorcised the demons. This house is clear.
So it's done. It's done.